Welcome. Oh.
It's mine.
All right, we're good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the January 4th, 2024 Northampton City Council meeting. This is our first regular meeting of the 24-25 City Council. I'm Alex Jarrett, and as City Council President, I'll be presiding this evening, along with Vice President Rachel Maori. There's just a few items on our agenda tonight. We will be hearing from Lisa Downing and others from the Forbes Library about the library and its strategic plans. We'll be considering minutes and appointment referrals and considering a lighting ordinance that was held over from last term, which we've been advised to hold another public hearing on at a future date. So this meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recording. So I'll now call the City Council to order. Laura, could you take the roll?
Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Mold.
Here.
Councillor Pastridge-Klemer.
Here.
Councillor Perry.
Here.
And Councillor Rothenberg. Here. Council President is for quorum.
Thank you. So ever since GL was council president, we've been passing along this public comment introduction and modifying it. So here's my slightly modified version passed from Jim Nash. So if you wish to make a public comment, please sign up on the sheet at the podium. If you're on Zoom, you use the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar under reactions, and if you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you're having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to Councillor Maori. If that doesn't work, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand and wave around, and hopefully we'll see you. So the technical problems, such as not being able to raise your hand, are the only things that the chat function is used for, and it will only be available during public comment. We can't accept public comment over chat. You can also submit a written public comment. You can email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all the councilors and will be part of the public record. So I'm going to alternate between people in the room and people on Zoom. And before you begin, you'll please state your name and your city or town. To ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, we limit comments to 2 minutes. You are in no way obligated to use the full 2 minutes, but if you do after 2 minutes, we will ask you to please finish your sentence. According to council rules, we do not respond during public comment. It is your time to speak, so your comments should be directed to us, but we won't be responding to them. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. You can speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. And then if you're on Zoom, please turn off all but the council turn off your video until you're called upon. Makes it much easier to actually see everyone. And only the person recognized has the floor. All comments are to be directed to the council. Finally, the meeting can also be watched on Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube and other platforms. So we'll alternate. So we'll first start by folks in the room. Jenny Fleming Ives.
It's good. It's on. Yes. It's good. Yes. I'm Jenny Fleming Ives. I'm 15 Dryads Green, Northampton, and it's good to be here on the first meeting of the new council, and congratulations to all of you. I'm here to support the lighting ordinance that is on the agenda this evening. I'm a certified nurse midwife and have worked in sexual and reproductive health for over 40 years. And it was actually my patients that first awakened my concerns with regard to light pollution. I began to realize that many of their health issues were actually connected with artificial light at night. And I began to investigate the research and found that there was considerable evidence-based research to highlight that artificial light at night can negatively affect human health, specifically breast cancer, other cancers, prostate cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, sleep disorders. And I just read a very new study of 2023, just one small study that links artificial light pollution at night with Alzheimer's. So this is an ongoing piece of research that's been being gathered over many years. So I realized that I wanted to, that this was sort of an issue that, you know, with so many things in the world that one cannot affect, that I could perhaps possibly make some difference in our own city. So I joined Northampton City Lights and have been working on this issue for the last few years. I'm really delighted to be able to support the lighting ordinance that's coming before you this evening. I think Carolyn Mish and her staff have done a fantastic job. I'm very grateful to the meeting that I attended with the Legislative Matters and the Planning Board, where you really took a serious critical review of the ordinance. I'm also grateful to my colleagues on Northampton City Lights, particularly James Lowenthal of Smith College. But I would really hope that as you, the City Council, consider this long overdue update to the lighting ordinance, that you will support the best lighting possible for the city that promotes this city that we call home. All the species that live here, human and others. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any raised hands on Zoom, so we'll go to the next person in the room, James Lowenthal.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Welcome, especially to the new councilors. Congratulations. I'm James Lowenthal. I live at 181 Crescent Street in Northampton. I'm the leader of Northampton City Lights and also the leader of Dark Sky, Massachusetts. And I'm also very active in light pollution at the national and international levels. Northampton City Lights is a citizens group with a steering committee of 10 and a members list of around 100. We come to the issue of light pollution for many different reasons. Concern for human health, as Jenny just mentioned. Wildlife, including pollinators, migrating birds, mammals, fish, all of them negatively affected by light pollution. Quality of life in our beautiful historic city. Bad lighting is ugly, good lighting is beautiful. Safety, which is compromised by the proliferation of bright blue glare from unshielded lights poking us in the eyes and making driving and pedestrian and cyclists' lives in jeopardy. And, of course, our view of the stars and the Milky Way, one of the most inspiring and transcendent gifts of nature, which is fast eroding under light pollution. We've worked closely with the city, with City Council, with Planning and Sustainability, Carolyn Mish, Legislative Matters, Planning Board on the current ordinance. We strongly support it, and I just want to point out it's consistent with the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting that the city has already endorsed. In particular, we urge you not to weaken any of the current aspects of the ordinance, specifically the color. We urge you to keep it at 2700 Kelvin. The higher the number, the bluer the light. There have been suggestions that 3000 would be better. There's no evidence for that. There's lots of evidence that 2700 is less harmful for all the reasons that light pollution is harmful, and it's not true that 2700 is hard to find. Here is one light bulb that is easy, that you find all over town. That's 2700, and it dims down to 2200 when you dim it. This one starts at 2200. This is 2200. It's a solar-powered pathway light. So these are easily available, and they're already all over town. If I could just take 1 second to ask you please not to weaken also the backlighting on Main Street. Experts that I've spoken with at the national level have urged us to keep it at B1 and pointed out that there's no evidence that visibility will be improved by weakening that standard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Nick Mautern. If you could state your name and city or town.
Yes, hi, my name is Nick Mautern. I live at 16 Strong Avenue in Northampton, and glad to be here in the first meeting of the council, see new people. I'm here as a member of the Leahy Fast for Palestine Committee. There are 3 of us now who are entering our 21st day of a sunrise to sunset fast in support of ending the war, ceasefire, enforcement of the Leahy Law, which is being violated right now. The Leahy Law says that weapons may not be sent to countries, militaries who are grossly violating human rights. And we're also looking to have all Israeli hostages and all Palestinian prisoners released. We pass out flyers to that effect 6 days a week, either half hour or an hour, depending on how cold it is, down at Main Street and King Street, Pleasant Street. And last time we were here, Peter Kakos, one of the fasters, and I asked if you would pass an emergency resolution in support of the goals of this fast, which I just listed. And I wonder if tonight anyone on the council would be willing to sponsor such a resolution. And I really appreciate your hearing me out, and I hope that the council will very soon pass a resolution, because I've met with Congressman McGovern with a group, and I know that he pays very close attention to what everybody in the community has to say, and if the city council would support these goals, I think it would mean a lot in terms of how members of Congress would behave. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Tina White. We'll make a call when we're done with this list to make a call to see if other people in the room want to speak. Tina White, yeah, your name and city or town.
Okay. Hello, my name is Christina White. I live in Florence, and I am a retired veterinarian. I come requesting your support in the lighting standards bylaw that has been designed by our planning board, and ask that you not weaken any of it. I spent my career advocating for animals and their families. I am part of a movement that includes physicians, ecologists, and veterinarians called One Health. This is the understanding that human, animal, and environmental health are all linked. Artificial light at night has been shown to be harmful in many ways. It causes stress in insects, in local and migrating birds, in bats, other mammals. It has been shown to reduce sleep and stress the immune system in people, and even hurts plants and trees. These effects have been demonstrated in many studies. Unlike plastic pollution or greenhouse gases, light pollution just stops when you turn it off. However, we need standards because it's easy for people not to be aware of their effect that artificial light at night is having. We just go inside and leave the outside lights bright. Most of the available bulbs and fixtures at our local stores are marketed as brighter is better, and it can be hard to find warmer or dimmer bulbs. So light pollution is like secondhand smoke. It affects the surrounding individuals, be they pollinators, trees, or other people who are essential to our functioning ecology. Sky glow can be seen from miles away, so lights on private property need regulation. I learned more about light pollution when my neighbor's driveway lights were shining into my bedroom. And all right.
You can finish your sentence.
So I improved my lights and talked to them, and they very kindly turned their lights off too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ruthie Woodring.
It's nice to see, I'm Ruthie Woodring, I live in Florence. Thank you all, city councilors, for putting yourself in harm's way to solve other people's problems. It was a beautiful ride down here on the rail trail in the darkness, except for my bright bike headlight. And I just hope that other people will get the chance to enjoy the soft darkness of night. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Come on up. Yeah, your name and city or town, please.
Thank you. Excuse my voice. I'm Don Darnell, Northampton. I have a background in electrical engineering and put several years of work just as a volunteer working with a very different municipality with the mayor and city councilors and lighting engineer and other city administration on lighting policy, outdoor lighting policy and practices for the city. And picked up, I think, a fair amount of information and experience that I think is useful to this task. And I'm here to urge you to support the amendment that's before you tonight without any further compromise. I'm particularly concerned, and I should say I'm here also representing a group of volunteers that have recently gathered at Village Hill, the Village Hill Healthy Lighting Association, or committee, as it's a part of the neighborhood association up there. We've spent a fair amount of time doing research and investigating the lighting on Village Hill in particular, and discussing this issue. And we're particularly concerned about at least some talk of possibly compromising the color or temperature requirements beyond the 2700K. Also some talk about changing the backlight requirements for Main Street. We think in both cases the original language before you is good, sensible, fact-based language, and we hope we'll stick with that rather than compromising it. Through my work with this other municipality, this is Edmonton, I think the major lesson that I came away with is that lighting is a lot more complicated and nuanced than it seems. It seems pretty simple. And so we tend not to give it the attention it deserves, and this amendment, I think, helps remedy that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room or on the Zoom who would like to speak? Come on up.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity.
Could you give your name and your city or town, please?
I will, in the next sentence.
Oh, okay.
I had to say hello first. For this important opportunity to share information about the paint stewardship legislation that's presently before our legislature for the 7th time. My name is Tom Irwin. I'm a retired engineer and physician, and I live at 54 Central Avenue in Dalton, Massachusetts. While I was part of the Waste Management and Recycle Committee in Dalton, I learned of paint stewardship, thought it was an excellent idea, did some research to verify that, went to Connecticut, Vermont, and to New York, where they had the program, interviewed retailers and consumers, and found that it was universally well accepted. No issues. So with that, I became an advocate for this law for the entire state, recognizing I couldn't do it just for Dalton. I had to do it for everybody or nobody. So why is paint stewardship important? Well, Massachusetts generates 5.9 million tons of trash annually, and that number goes up by 2% annually. There is only 3.2 million tons of capacity to incinerate. So the remaining 2.7 and growing number has to be hauled to faraway places like Ohio, and that has a large carbon footprint that and it's extremely expensive. So the alternative is product stewardship. That will allow us to recycle multiple product streams and to cut down on these huge costs. What is paint stewardship? Paint stewardship is the program that would allow people to bring their unwanted paint to small participating retail stores like Sherwin-Williams, Ace Hardware, and drop it off at no cost at that time. This paint will be reprocessed and sold at 30 to 50% of its original cost, and the only lift to people will be a 75-cent fee per gallon when you buy the paint. The benefits: there will be no cost to any municipality. People are going to love this program. Already 30 to 60% of the paint that is returned to the Enfield, Connecticut Sherwin-Williams stores from Massachusetts residents. So what are our next steps? When the bill arrives at the Ways and Means Committee, mid to late February of this year, it is going to be important, extremely valuable, to have as many resolutions as possible from municipalities encouraging the Ways and Means Committee chairs to view the paint stewardship legislation favorably and send it to the floor for a vote, where it most certainly will pass. I'm hoping that a council member finds that this resonates with them and they would be willing to sponsor this measure, and we can go to a subcommittee or what have you, as I don't know the culture here in Northampton, so that we can consider this and decide whether or not this is something that is to the benefit and in the interest of the people of Northampton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room or on the Zoom? Oh, yeah. People keep arriving. Okay, last call for public comment in the room or on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to announcements from councilors and the mayor. So these are sometimes called 1-minute announcements, but they're not timed. And, we've had long songs be performed.
Go ahead, sing it.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, the Ward 3 School Committee Rep, Emily, and I will be meeting to discuss a petition that's going around to promote support for school funding. So I urge any Ward 3 residents listening to this that are interested to be in touch with either Emily or myself, and we'll make sure that you get that petition, which is going and growing. I think is about 100 signatures now, and there'll be more from us on that soon.
Thank you. Councilor Perry.
Yes, thank you very much. As we know, it's a new year and a new chance to experience and enjoy arts in Northampton. So next week, we've got the first Arts Night Out, sponsored by our DNA. And there are a number of places that are participating, everywhere from our Michelson Gallery to Click Workspace to the Senior Center, as well as 33 Hawley. The event goes from 5 to 8 p.m. I heard from Councilor Moulton that the work at 33 Hawley is excellent. I have not had a chance to check it out myself, but please, I implore people to go to, where is it? Northampton Arts Night Out to check out all the things that are happening. The following day is going to be the second annual Northampton St. Patrick's Association Marshall and Brennan Gala, and that's going to be at Union Station. Tickets or information are at northamptonstpats.org. And finally, on January 16th, I think this is relevant because we have some people representing Forbes here, but there is a Forbes Library staff art show that's happening from 5:30 to 7:30. My kids and I love going to Forbes, and we're looking forward to checking out what the staff has put forward.
Thank you. Councilor Mary.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let everyone know this Saturday, January 6th, from 8 to 10:30 is the Northampton High School's Environmental Club Styrofoam Collection. So that's going to be at 296 Nonotuck Mills. It says here, don't bring in black trash bags. It's $5 a bag, and it goes to support the Northampton High School Environmental Club. So again, that's 8 to 10:30 this Saturday, 296 Nonotuck. Thank you.
Any other councilors? I'll just make an announcement to counselors, or just a reminder, if you haven't gotten in your committee preferences, please do that this evening if you can. We'll be working on them this weekend to Laura or me. There, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, counselors, council president, council vice president, new counselors, returning counselors. It's an absolute thrill to be working with all of you. So it's a joy to be here at your first meeting. I am announcing the Silver Cord Bowl. So this is the 40th anniversary of the Silver Cord Bowl. It is the oldest and most respected, I think that's according to us, collegiate a cappella showcase in the region. This year it will be at John M. Green Hall and Smith College's campus, and it is hosted by Smith College President Sarah Willie LeBreton, myself, and by Steve Sanderson of the Northampton Arts Council and also WRSI The River. So this is Sunday, February 11th at 2 p.m. The doors open at 1:30 p.m. And there are a bunch of different groups. Our very own Northamptons will be performing, as they always do, and then there'll be 6 other groups from colleges and universities. It's a really fun event if you've never been. It also tends to sell out, so I wanted to give everyone some early notice of it. If you want tickets, you can go to northamptonartscouncil.org for tickets. And again, that's February 11th, 2 p.m. at John M. Green Hall. So check it out.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, next is, under presentations, the Forbes Library Strategic Plan, and we have Lisa Downing, the Forbes Library Director, along with a couple of other folks from the library. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. And we have a presentation, visual presentation as well. So I'm Lisa Downing, the library director. It feels like I'm here at the first day of school. It feels wonderful. Congratulations, and thank you for having us. This is really, we appreciate your attention. So I am here tonight with a couple of colleagues that I will introduce, but I'm going to start with just a few things I wanted to share. I'll keep it under the 10 minutes for all of us. I'm going to give a brief history, some fun facts, and then introduce our new strategic plan, and happy to take questions and answers at the end. I was hoping we could go to the next slide. There we go. Yay. All right. Because what I'm going to say is about I'm hoping folks can see this okay. So the upper left photo is of the library under construction before we opened in 1894. So this is our 130th year of continuous service. We're very proud of that. Brocklesby was our architect. He also designed many buildings at Smith College. We were built to be as resistant to fire as possible, including stone and steel construction, so that's the steel roof that you're seeing, and with without wood framing, and inside there's beautiful tile arches and glass floors to limit the amount of wood in the interior to make us to live up to the intention of us being as fireproof as we could. We were founded by a bequest by Charles E. Forbes, who was a local attorney. In his will, he offered money to the city to build a public library. Under the terms, the city would provide ongoing funding for staffing and maintenance. We are in a private-public partnership with the city, and I feel it works well. I hope the mayor feels this way too, and I hope you all do, that through good communication and transparency, we have made things work. Our relationship was clarified in an agreement that we reached with the city in 2017, and that is included in the counselor orientation materials as a link if you want to dig into it further. The Forbes Library is an incorporated nonprofit organization, and our elected board of trustees oversee the library. Staff are not considered city employees, even though the city provides the funding for staff salaries and benefits, as well as the vast majority of our operating costs. We supplement our budget with income from the library's endowment, fundraising, as well as gifts from the Friends of Forbes Library. These efforts cover a variety of things that are outside of what the city supports, including our book budget, technology needs, public programming, and professional development. Our relationship with the city is special, but not unique for the time it was established. The Academy of Music is also a gift that the city accepted back in the 1890s. Some other special things about the library is we have a fish named Paco. I'm sure if Councilor Perry is familiar with this. Anyone with kids, it's always a show stealer whenever we have any tour of any age person. But that fish has been with us for over 30 years, delighting families and every visitor. Our first librarian, whose little picture is up there, Charles Cutter, invented the classification system that we still use today. We're one of the very few libraries in the world that still use it. Cutter was a contemporary of Melville Dewey, the Dewey Decimal System, which may be familiar to some of you who went to Amherst College. Dewey's system took off. Cutter's did not, but we are still tied to him. We were the first library for Smith College, so that is a photo of there. We did a first-year card drive and got over 10% of the first-year students this year, which we were really excited about. And we served as that first library for about 15 years before they built the Nielsen Library. We are also the largest off-campus employer and work closely with the Smith College community. We house the Calvin Coolidge Presidential Library and Museum. Coolidge served on the Northampton City Council and as mayor early in his political career, and we are the only public library in the country to house a presidential museum. We also have an extensive local history collection, including many old photographs, and that last photo on that slide on the bottom right is one of Main Street from 1920 when Coolidge was notified that he was the vice presidential candidate. Northampton has 2 independent public libraries, Forbes and Lilly Library. I don't have a picture of Lilly, but we coordinate hours and services, and we are both members of the C.W. Mars Network and try to work very closely. We have just completed a strategic plan that will take us through 2027, and it is based on extensive community feedback, including a survey with over 1,000 responses. We held focus groups and interviews with community leaders, including some of you, and I now invite our Assistant Director, Molly Moss, to come up and talk about our strategic plan.
Thank you. So we used all of the data that we gathered from our community to create our 3 goal areas to focus our objectives around for the next 3 years. And I'll just mention a few of these for each goal as we go through. The strategic plan is required by our state agency, the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, but we find it to be a very useful touchstone as we look at new initiatives and make decisions about how to use our resources to benefit our community. The first goal area is wellness, which is centering the well-being of our community through the library's services and spaces. The 2 objectives I'll mention are we will continue to protect the intellectual freedom and privacy of our patrons. As you know, book challenges and bans are increasing around the country, and we aren't immune to this in Massachusetts. Forbes Library will publicly support legislation that protects intellectual freedom and library employees. The other one is we will take action to provide new pathways to library access. With the support of Dr. Bonner, we have begun a program to increase the number of kindergartners with public library cards in the Northampton Public Schools, which we're very excited about. Awareness. Empower our community by increasing awareness of local resources. By sharing information and building connections, we will drive growth and improve the quality of life in Northampton. This goal was inspired in part by survey responses that want the library to offer programs and services that we already have. So we need to do a better job of letting people know what is available to them, including to people who are not currently regular patrons of the library, and then make it easier for them to use the library when they do come in. Inspiration. Improve our physical spaces and resources so that we may continue to be a source of fun, wonder, and inspiration for the community. This is really one of our core services and includes expanding our library of things. We're just now adding an additional 10 hotspots to circulate to community members, as well as completing our ARPA-funded project of a performance stage on the West Lawn that will be available for both library programming and community use.
So we're very proud of this plan, and the library, I know some places strategic plans are something that you do and you work on and then you sort of shelve. We really work hard on these plans, not only doing them, but achieving what we set out based on feedback from our community. So hopefully you'll be seeing some of these things come to life. I have another slide here. This is a really fun one. So this library staff, actually Charles Cutter, who I mentioned, is in that black and white photo from the 1890s. And then on the other photo, the color photo, is of some of our library staff this year. And I couldn't talk to you folks without talking about our staff. We have 24 benefited staff members. They are creative, community-focused, and dedicated folks. We've been emphasizing hiring staff with world language skills. So we now have several Spanish speakers, along with French, Japanese, and more. We also have musicians, artists, local history experts, and staff with really strong technical skills. We have several notaries on staff that provide that service for free for the community, and all of us love to talk about books and movies, so please come by and see us. And I'd like to leave you with a question of how can we be helpful, and we are here for you and your constituents. We can help people get access to technology, which is so critical, for so many things. But during the pandemic, we heard about people needing to do telehealth appointments and needing someplace private to do them. So you can use rooms at the library. We can also print, fax, and offer other tech support, and help with all kinds of things, including getting families started with early literacy, and then, as Molly mentioned, our commitment to intellectual freedom and factual information is something that is really important to us, and we will continue to focus on during these tough times in those areas. And never hesitate to reach out to me or anyone on our staff, or make a referral to us, because we will do our very best to meet your constituents' needs. I'd like to introduce Katie White, who's on our board, our elected board of trustees, and chaired that strategic plan committee, and open it up for any questions or comments that you might have.
Hi.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Questions? Councilor Rothenberg.
Well, we love you. One of the resources, just curious for some of my constituents, I mentioned in the last meeting, some of them don't have internet. I think I heard that you guys rent out, or what do you call it, lease out a mobile hotspot. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'll let Molly take that one.
Sure, yeah, we have, we're just adding 10 more to the 20 or so that we already have. There was a long waiting list. They go out for 3 weeks at a time. You can connect up to 10 devices to one hotspot, and the data is included. It's unlimited data to use them.
Free of charge?
Free of charge. All of our services are free of charge, except the only thing we charge for is if you are a business making money using our community room, we will charge you for using it. If you are a nonprofit or a city group using our community rooms and you're not making money off of it, it is yours for free.
And what did you say about the waiting list for those mobile hotspots?
We have a waiting list, but we just added 10 more, so I'm really hoping that the waiting list goes.
Can you accept donations if somebody wanted to make more of those hotspots available?
Right now, we're limited through the affordable way we're getting them. We're only allowed to buy 10 a year.
Okay.
But if you wanted to make donations for next year, it's on the fiscal year, and we accept donations for all of our services.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I was among folks who attended a couple of the focus groups over the last 2 years, I think, and I really appreciate the breadth of the outreach that you did to reach people in the community. I'm very interested in what I know that partnerships and building on your partnerships is very important to you. What are some of the things that you can talk about that you are looking at doing, say, this year in terms of those partnerships in building awareness for people who aren't current users of the library?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Katie? Sure. Yeah. So we have some new branding, which we're really proud of, and actually we're going to hand out a couple things. Maybe we could do that now. And so we're hoping to really put together a more strategic marketing plan that will be targeting both English speakers and Spanish speakers, thinking both social media, but other methods, word of mouth, and really utilizing a lot of the channels that are in our community to help spread the word. We are going to be trying to get the pandemic really, we used to do more community engagement, so you would see us tabling, and we're getting back to that in a really exciting way. So we'll be at the Winter Farmers Market as an example in a couple of weeks, and hopefully you'll see us out at a lot of different community events. We're also, one target audience that is particularly important are people who are living in subsidized housing through the Northampton Housing Authority. We looked and sort of have a benchmark of how many of those folks have library cards now, and we'd love to increase that. So we're hoping to do some really targeted outreach there. Those are just a couple of the ideas. I would say some of our key partnerships, I don't know if the one slide was the Center for New Americans is like a really allied organization to us, so offering frequent tours as well as offering meeting spaces for students to meet with tutors. I'm hoping this stage that we mentioned, we've been hosting their graduation event in the spring on our lawn, and so we'll be excited to be able to do that on a stage in the near future. But there's really one of the things about the library is it has a very broad mission, and we partner with Historic Northampton and the Northampton Parent Center, and I could just, sit here and name names, and if there's an organization that you care about and that you would like us to connect with, or you think that we could do good things together, or at least know about each other, please, reach out or ask somebody to connect with me, because we are very, very open to all of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those beautiful postcards that we got these beautiful photographs or paint, and it seemed like it was my Ward 3. I got a picture of Ward 3 in the Christmas mail from you guys. Did you do a different one for every ward, or did I just?
We could say that we were that clever.
We acquired that painting. No, you should come and see it in person.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
It's a painting.
It is a painting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, and we featured Ward 3. I guess now the challenge is we'll have to feature another ward next year.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, thank you. Kate, question. Now, you're talking about agencies. If we know any agencies, I know tons of them. But anyways, how about Cancer Connection? With the director, Chelsea Klein, she's really doing a tremendous amount of outreach. And I have even residents I know in the city and in Ward 6 too, who have been diagnosed with cancer, going through the treatments, and also with their social workers that they have there are just fantastic, so I think you should talk with Chelsea on that. I think it would be a great asset.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and that organization is so important. I'll mention one service that hasn't come up tonight, and that is delivery service. So whether somebody's, just isolating or recovering from something temporary or long-term, we're happy to deliver books. And that delivery, it's getting the library materials, but really the volunteers in that program also make connections. So there's a way to sort of build friendships through that program.
I wish I had known that, because I had a resident, which I had Senator Joe Comfort come over and meet him, and he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Very, very needy, very needy. And I've always told state reps or whoever, your eyes tell it all. And I believe in that. When Senator Joe Comfort went in there, she came back out with me. She said, I learned something. Eyes tell it all. And I wish I had known about what you did there, because I would have had you come and visit him. And I just had another resident diagnosed with cancer also.
Yeah, please think of us.
Thank you.
Other questions? Counselor Dubs. Make sure to turn on your mic.
Thank you. I was curious if you could talk a little bit about the Accessibility Advisory Board. We got Ben Kalis, who was the chair of it. He's great. He comes to all of our Disability Commission meetings, and he told us about that board. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that plug. So we have Ben Kalish serves on the city's commission, and also we have a library-focused commission that's advisory group that's meeting next week to think about specifically how the library can break down barriers. These things that have come out of this committee have been improvements to our programming and some of our accessibility technology, thinking about collections, thinking about the physical spaces, and navigating them. There's nothing, it's a really great group. It is open to everyone, so just reach out to the library if this is an area of interest, and you can share your input. The library is deeply committed to accessibility, as I hope you know. And
oh, definitely, yes. I love coming there. Yeah.
So, but there's always, of course, work to do, and with the Victorian building, there's always challenges as well.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you so much for coming. It's great to build this relationship with us, with the new council here and with Forbes.
Yeah,
So-
thank you. Thank you so much, and I wish you a very good season. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, we'll move on. Next is our consent agenda. And so I'm going to read the items on the consent agenda, and then if anyone wants them to be removed, then we can discuss them. But if they're on the consent agenda, we don't debate or discuss. We either just approve the agenda. So the items are the minutes of December 21st, 2023. And even if you weren't at that meeting, you are welcome to vote on approval of it. And 24.003, appointments to Parks and Rec and the Arts Council for referral to city services. To the Parks and Rec Commission, there's David Ames. And to the Arts Council, there's Jennifer Pollins and Kit Pedraza. Are there any removals from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, since there's no financial orders on the consent agenda, but we can do a voice vote. If there's ever a financial order, then we have to do a roll call. But seeing no financial orders, all in favor of approving the...
I think we need a motion to.
Oh,
I'll
yes.
make a motion to approve then.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilor Perry and seconded by Councilor Elkins. So now we have a motion on the floor, and now we can vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? So the consent agenda is approved. And then we skip over a whole bunch of sections that don't have anything in them, and we come to 23.349, ordinance to amend chapter 350-12.2, outdoor lighting, second reading. And process note, since the ordinance is carried over from the previous session and some councilors have not heard the discussion/presentation, the city solicitor's recommendation is to restart the city council's public hearing. There's also listed here a long history of how it was referred, the hearings that were held, the recommendations, and there's a slight difference between the planning board positive recommendation and the legislative matters positive recommendation, and then that it was carried over from the previous session. Here today to give us a short presentation is Carolyn Misch from the Planning and Sustainability Office, Director. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. Nice to be here in the new session. So I think it probably makes sense to give an overview. Councilor Jarrett talked about how this has been actually was sort of a 6-month process through last year, I think, and coming right to the end of that session. I do want to sort of take you back a little bit in history. We've had a lighting ordinance and lighting standards in the city of Northampton for decades. So this is an amendment that essentially will replace what's there now because it's sort of an update, catches up to technology that we haven't caught up to since 2007, I think was the last time it was, the ordinance was amended, and really creates more parameters around, as some of the public commenters mentioned, light color or temperature, a little bit more specificity about glare control and location of lighting and directing lighting, and then also introduces a cutoff time for business and commercial districts, so lights to be turned off after a certain time unless once a business closes. So, but I want to clarify that this is a zoning ordinance, so just because the standards that you're looking at today and through this process introduce some new parameters and some different controls, it doesn't mean that the lights all over the city will change and now they'll comply to this. So all the existing lights out there will continue to be there. The standards will only apply to new installations. So particularly when we're talking about business lighting, that will only apply. So it'll be sort of as businesses transition, as applicants replace their lights, then these new standards will apply. So there won't be a sudden darkness across the entire city the day that you adopt this ordinance. I just want to be clear about that. To go over some of the specifics, and we'll get into more details in the Legislative Matters Committee meeting, which the committee, I guess, has not been formed yet. So those counselors who will participate in that, we can dive into more detail. And I think basically the lighting standards differentiate between residential districts and commercial districts, and these are about site lighting standards, not interior lights for businesses or residences. And this ordinance, we had maximum light levels previously, but this creates further distinction about particular uses, especially in commercial districts. So for car sales lots versus, restaurants, there are different standards. And also introduces the concept, a newer concept of backlight, uplight, and glare ratings and definitions related to those, and that's about the directional spread of light. And it really sort of focuses more on the standards around controlling LED lights, because that's the technology now that's out there and it's growing, and we don't know what will come next. But I think the great thing about our ordinances is that when these things change, we can go in and make either very surgical and strategic modifications to the zoning based on technology changes, or if we need to do a wholesale revision similar to sort of what we're doing today, we can do that. So I think we had a lot of conversation going in before this was referred or transferred over to this new council. There are still a couple of areas of I think that deserve more conversation, and those relate to, you heard in the public comment about the color temperature and whether there should be a standard of a maximum of 2,700 Kelvin for lights, and that was all site lights. So my recommendation is that we make a distinction between site lighting and street lights, and I can go into the discussion of that at Legislative Matters, and then also pull out and sort of differentiate the downtown central business core district relative to street lights and the backlight, uplight, and glare standards, because in the core zoning district, we have Main Street, and Main Street is the widest street in the city. And so there are different, it's probably appropriate to think about different standards that would be able to allow lighting across the sidewalk, the wide sidewalks, and the new planned, even wider sidewalks that we'll have on Main Street. So we'll definitely want to talk about that in more detail. And then I think sort of those 2 points, I think, were the last remaining items that from the carryover from previously, and it seemed as though the standards and the modifications anyway from the existing ordinance to this proposed had been pretty well hashed through. So I'd be happy to answer any specific questions about the lighting ordinance.
Before we do that, I would just want to make sure counselors understand the process fully. So what we're doing, I think is proposed tonight is to do a referral to legislative matters. It's required that zoning ordinances and ordinances go to legislative matters, and usually legislative matters is the last committee to receive it. We can also choose to refer to other committees if we so decide. And then those committees will make a recommendation, positive, neutral, negative, and they can also provide amendments, legislative matters especially. And then it will come back to us, and we will review all of that and decide what of it we want to adopt. We can also then make amendments. Councilor Elkins.
This being a zoning ordinance, do we have to have the planning board join us again? Do they have to?
I think, Laura, the city solicitor said that it was just because the planning board hadn't changed.
Okay.
It was because this body had changed that we have to redo for.
It's good, because I think at least one planning board member might fall out if he had to come back again.
Just to clarify, so the typical process is for zoning ordinance amendments, they're introduced at City Council in a first reading, and then referred out to a City Council subcommittee and the Planning Board. And both those bodies are required, City Council or its subcommittee and Planning Board are required to hold a public hearing. So that all happened over the last 6 months. Planning Board had its hearing and closed its hearing. City Council Legislative Matters closed its hearing and referred it to the full council. Solicitor Seawald has recommended a new public hearing because of the new counselors, but a carryover could just be voted on, I believe, regardless. So there's not a need to send it back to Planning Board, is my understanding.
Okay. Councilor Elkins.
And I want to have more discussion after this, but I would move to refer this to legislative matters.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Elkins, seconded by Councilor Moulton to refer this to legislative matters. So yes, questions for Carolyn?
Sorry, you were just saying it could just be voted on at legislative matters? Or it could just be voted on tonight here?
I'm saying, I think legally, when an ordinance is passed over to the new council, you guys can make your own rules. I think you could vote on it. But there's sometimes the new council doesn't really change, so it's all the councils have heard.
But are you recommending that it goes back so that you can figure out the details of those last two items?
Yes, I mean, I think it's fine to go back. I think it makes sense to go for another conversation, whether it's a public hearing or just a discussion is up to the council. And the recommendation from city solicitors that it's a hearing. So that seems totally appropriate. It just doesn't need to go back to planning board because it's still sort of an open item.
Thanks. And finally, are you also going to be looking at Holly Street when you talk about sort of exceptions for downtown, and because that'll be a different size, but it'll be mixed use, and you'll have changes to come to Holly Street, right? So.
Yeah. So the lighting ordinance addresses different neighborhoods by their zoning classification. So Hawley Street has some urban residential C zoning and some central business side street zoning. So
You're on top of all of that. You know the city inside out, yeah.
So basically, the tweaks that I have brought tonight and that I was prepared to bring in December aren't about Hawley Street in particular.
Great.
Other questions?
I just had,
Yeah, Councilor Mayor.
a resident asked me if the new lighting on the truck eating bridge, if that was, that's before we've passed this ordinance, if that was kind of made to comply with the potential ordinance.
Well, we can do, yes, I mean, that's considered, that actually could be considered exempt because it's festive lighting. But it does not exceed the lumen levels, and it, right now, it's timed to turn off. I think at 2, but I have not stayed up to check that. I'm not planning to stay up to check that, but we also, it's controllable, so, you know.
But will it save any trucks?
Well, actually, I need to clarify. The lighting is not on the truck eating bridge.
Oh, okay.
There are
from far away.
There are 3 bridges.
All right, so next.
The current lighting is under the bike path bridge with the sculpture. So that's the highest one. Then there's the railroad bridges, there are 2 of them, and the truck eating one is no longer an active rail line. It's protecting the other bridges. So we want to keep it there to keep getting bashed so it won't affect those other bridges. But the next phase of the lighting will go under the other bridges, still with that protective bridge in front.
Got it. Thank you very much.
And the lighting is not meant to control truck drivers.
Any other questions or deliberation on this referral? Councilor Elkins.
I just wanted, it's not so much deliberation, I just wanted to make a note for those of us who are joining us, that I definitely think there are some points that are I'm glad we're going to have another opportunity to another pass at some of the details that we didn't quite, it was going to be tough to really flesh out in December. And I just want to encourage the new folks to go back. We actually had 2 meetings. We had 2 joint meetings with Legislative Matters and Planning Board, and they were as thorough and detailed and informative as any committee meeting on any subject that I think I've attended. The second one was kind of exhausting, but we covered a lot of ground and really hashed out some details. So since we don't know what the committees are yet, and then in addition to come to be prepared to vote, even if you're not on legislative matters, I highly, highly recommend that you give those meetings a good look. And because I also think there's a pretty good chance that the next meeting is really going to hopefully hone in on the things that weren't tied up with that, instead of rehashing everything. So that's just my encouragement to new folks to get up to speed on a really thorough process.
Thank you. Councilor Rothenberg.
Was there anything controversial
Amongst the counselors?
and the planning board about this? Can you give us the 500-foot view?
There wasn't anything really controversial. Both bodies gave it a positive recommendation. There was one provision regarding whether or not lights would be 2,700 lumens versus, right? Kelvin, sorry, lumens, Kelvin. Kelvins versus 3,000. I think that had to do, the biggest issue is that those folks on planning board who have expertise in industry had some concerns that 3,000 lumens are more readily available and at better cost than the 2,700. And I think that was in particular around bigger light fixtures, street scale, yeah.
Big site lights, as opposed to the ones you could buy at the hardware store that are bulbs that you can put in your house on your porch light or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So both bodies gave it a positive recommendation. Planning board, though, opted for 3,000 for the logistics issues, and then council's recommendation kept it at 2,700.
And then the other item you mattered that mentioned that's still outstanding, the exceptions for the downtown, was that controversial at all, or that's just outstanding because we haven't worked out the details yet?
Yeah, it was came through that meeting, and then after that meeting, in my conversations with our Main Street design team about the impacts of having some standards applicable to Main Street, and the fact that Main Street's so wide that we want to get light coverage without adding a lot more poles, and also understanding the costs and the implications of having different lights that might not meet MassDOT standards, and then the burden would be on the city to pay for those lights as opposed to MassDOT potentially paying for those lights. We're still not sure about. So that came up sort of at the tail end, and sort of shifting through to that last council meeting that would have been in December. And so we haven't had, as Councilor Elkins mentioned, haven't really had a chance to sort of wade through that and talk about it.
And other councilors can attend legislative matters. They won't be voting on the recommendation, but they can participate as the public participates. Any other questions or thoughts on this proposal? All right, so since this is a referral, we can take a voice vote to refer this zoning ordinance to legislative matters. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. And guess what? We're at the end of our agenda.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a song.
Oh, man, there should be a song.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Motion made by Councilor Perry
Second.
and seconded by Councilor Elkins. There is no debate on adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned at 8:08.